Welcome back to the channel and welcome back for the final podcast episode of the 23-24 season. It's been a long season. I started back in June the 15th when the fixtures come out, so almost a full year of podcasts. It's been a long time. Owen, you must have done 30, maybe 40 podcasts this season. So you've been a big part of the show. We're going to be looking back. And of course, at Man City making 4 wins in a row in the Premier League. First team in history to win 4 Premier League titles in a row. We're looking back at where they won it, the big moments in the season for them, how hard they had to work. Pep's credentials is the best ever. How Man City's dominance ends. Does it take Pep to leave? Will next season be Pep's last season? He kind of hinted at that in his interview yesterday with Sky Sports. We'll look as well at Arsenal, despite winning yesterday. That missed out on the Premier League title. So where did Arsenal lose it? What moments in the season defined them finishing second? We'll look at obviously the big news in the last couple of hours that Arne Slot has been announced as Liverpool's new manager. We'll look back at Klopp's final game and how Arne Slot now can pick up and take Liverpool to another level. What difficulties he'll face and what changes he may make in the summer. We'll round off yesterday's results, including ones for Spurs and Chelsea to secure Europe, and Newcastle, despite winning, sweating on the final of the FA Cup on Saturday. They need Man City to beat United. Of course, if United were to win that game, Newcastle would miss out in Europe. Chelsea would drop to the Conference League, and United would go on to the Europa League. So a wee bit to sort out yet, and that'll happen on Saturday at 3 o'clock. We'll look at Spurs, Chelsea, how their seasons fared out and how costly if United do win that cup, it could be for Newcastle and Eddie Howe. And we'll finish off by doing our 12th man season award. So me and Owen have selected our teams of the season, players of the season, managers of the season, our best newcomer to the league, our overachievers, underachievers, and our ones to watch for next season. So Owen, plenty to discuss in the next 15 minutes before we get off. Of course, Shamrock Rovers playing Derry City tonight, so it's a game we want to watch. But Owen, how are you before we start? It's been a long season. But it probably ended like everybody thought it would, going into Sunday.
There was no real surprise. I had an emotional day yesterday, as you can probably imagine. But now that Slot's been officially announced, it's time to get behind him now and time to back the new man. Football, as Van Dijk said, life moves on. So
we'll come on to talk about Liverpool and KLOPP, of course. But are you very much now that what's happened is in the past, and it's very much looking ahead to the future than looking back?
And you seen the way Klopp was in his speech yesterday. He seemed to be very, very pro Arne Slot and getting behind him. So if Klopp's going to get behind him, then I think us fans should give him time and get behind him. But we'll get on to that later on in the show.
We'll talk about your beloved Liverpool very shortly. We'll talk about your second favourite team now, Man City. Don't
know why that.
For them. 4 Premier League titles in a row. Couldn't happen to a better club.
Happy wouldn't be the word I would use. No, in serious, like, as much as I have my views on Man City.
You say how you feel. You're more than welcome to say. You've earned the right to speak the many times you've been on this podcast this season.
No, like, it's whatever goes on above them. Like, it's nothing to do with it. As we've said, it's nothing to do with the players or the manager. So they do deserve the accolades that they're getting, because they are a great team. They are the standard that everyone wants to be in. Hopefully at some point these charges will get resolved one way or another, because it is a cloud over them one way or another. And if they get charged, they deserve to be fine. They deserve to have whatever's done to them. But if they're proven not guilty, then we move on. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. We'll get on to it. If this is Pep's last season, will the league start to open up a bit?
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting time ahead to see what happens regarding everything we Man City, as you said, the charges, Pep, players. Do they move on now? They've achieved, what they have. They tend to move players on every summer. We've seen players leave despite winning, so it'll be interesting to see what happens this summer. But a few people watching the comments. So this is our final podcast of this season. So if you anything you want to say, anything you want to ask us, feel free to put your comments on, and we'll try and answer as best as we can before 8 o'clock tonight.
They'll probably ask me, why do you hit Man City so much?
I think 115 reasons why you hit Man City, isn't it?
No, it's not. But I want to resolve one way or another because I'm fed up talking about it,
Hmm.
and I'm
Let's
sure
let's
that
reflect on yesterday. We'll speak about the big stories. Of course, the
yeah,
biggest story. Well, maybe it was Klopp, but probably the biggest story in terms of what was on the line was Man City and Arsenal going for the league. And Man City, no surprise, won the league. Probably
yeah,
surprising how quickly they flew out of the traps. They've been notoriously slow starters on final days when they've been on a title race. But this was pretty much over. I know Kudos give Arsenal fans a glimmer, but I didn't really see Man City throwing away a 2-goal lead at home. And in the end, once they got the third goal, it became a bit of a formality. It was a bit like a training session, and Man
yeah.
City do what they do. And yet again, it's another player lifting the trophy for them. We've seen Company lift it for them. We've seen David Silva, I think, might have lifted it. Walker lifted it yesterday. We've seen Gundogan lift it. We've seen Fernandinho lift it. Doesn't matter who leaves, they always seem to have these leaders in the background.
Aye, it's basically a conveyor belt, doesn't it? Right. If you'll go, we'll bring someone else in. Uh, the funniest quote I've ever heard Pep say was, "We cannot replace Aguero." Yeah, can you not? No, I'm pretty sure the striker you brought in's doing all right for himself. Like two golden boots in his first two seasons. But I actually I actually think this will be a lot of Man City's players last seasons next year. I think you will start to see. I do think Holland will move on in the next year or two.
Haaland already at 63 Premier League goals, believe it or not. So
So
we have
that's
one good
just
season. Next year, he could get to 100. Who knows? That would be incredible in 3 seasons, but may take
crazy.
him just under that fourth one. Owen, obviously, when teams won titles, you look back at significant results, significant days. I mean, it hasn't been plain sailing for Man City this year. They've had to work very hard. I mean, you think about when we broke off the international break, Man City were actually third in the table. Coming back from that break, Liverpool were top, Arsenal were second, and Man City were third. Now, I do think they had one game in hand, but still, they were still, even if they had won that, they were still behind. So
Yeah.
they had a bit of work to do. And they strong, and they stay strong, and they finish strong like they normally do. I mean, is there any moment in the season that you think back that was the day they won the league, or that was the day that you started to believe that Liverpool and Arsenal they were second favourites?
For me, it was the day that Arsenal drew with them.
Yeah.
For me, that was, as Rodri said yesterday. We went. They went there. They won, and Arsenal went there and parked the bus in Hazard's. So for me, it was that, or it was the 1-1 draw at Anfield.
No, they stayed in the game, didn't they? And
Yeah,
they didn't lose despite not playing well. I mean,
yeah.
funny enough, they played Arsenal twice in the league, only got 1 point. Played Liverpool twice in the league, got 2 points. Didn't beat any of the top two. Lost away to Villa and beat. So they only won one out of them 6 games against the teams in the top four.
But
Um,
then Liverpool beat none of them. So
well, that's it. But they were very, very. I've seen Arsenal's record in the big games. And the top
yeah,
six, the big six table, they actually got 22 points out of a possible 30. So Arsenal lost
very
it in
strong.
places where they probably should not. City, they mopped up in the games they were supposed to. But I mean, I always think sometimes it's easy to look back at the moments where they got a good one or a good draw. Sometimes I think a defeat can be a big moment. I mean, I think Liverpool's big moment was losing to Spurs 4-1 at Wembley. You know, that day, Klopp had enough
Yeah,
of the Lovrens and the Mingales. He went out and he says, we need somebody. And if you remember, they ended up in the Champions League final that year and they went on a massive
yeah,
unbeaten run after
yeah,
losing to Spurs in October. And I think for this season, that bad performance, Villa completely outplayed them at Villa Park.
yeah.
And Man City haven't lost a game since. You know, they
It's
changed it up. And sometimes a defeat can be as big as a moment as a loss. Or
I
sorry, as a
it's
one.
it's you always put Man City as they always start a season slow, but once we get into the Christmas period, then they just we've seen it again. They just go on a one and run, and you have to put a gap as well. And also, I think Liverpool not beating Man United and Arsenal in the space of them days as well would have give them a big boost, because I do think if we had got points, well, maximum points out of them, I do think it would have been a whole different story. But um, they're just a juggernaut, and they just have the mentality of winners, and they've won everything there is they won really, and it's it is special, like for their fans
I mean,
and
you
for the
point to the
players.
Arsenal game. Arsenal, not. I think Gary Neville made this point that when they ran a title race, they always felt the challenger had to come and beat them if they were the champions. And Arsenal play, as you say, Rodri criticised that they came and played for a draw. And I
Yeah.
suppose looking back, it left them in an awkward position because they had to be perfect. And we'll come on to speak about Arsenal, but the Man City had that draw on Easter Sunday with Arsenal, and they won their final 10 games after. So they won 10 in a row, which is something they're quite accustomed to doing. But I mean, the one difference this season, they probably previous ones Man City have had is they weren't just up against Liverpool or up against Arsenal. They actually were up against both of them for a long time in the Premier League season. Only really towards the end of April when Liverpool fell off. I mean, if
Yeah.
you looked at where they were in that international break, in my opinion, they were third favourites because of how well Liverpool and Arsenal were playing. I know Man City have been there and done it, but they didn't look like they were going to drop many points. And always felt Man City needed help, and then they did. They got that help when Liverpool fell apart, and obviously Arsenal lost the game. We'll speak about it in a wee minute, but they needed things to go their way, and it did. I mean, do you think Pep will look back and think this was the best out of the four? Obviously, they've got the four in a row as well, which will help. But the fact they were up against a rejuvenated Liverpool and improved Arsenal from last season, and you could argue Man City probably haven't been at their best for the 38 games.
Yeah, I there was a point in, say, start of March time, start of April time. I was convinced that Liverpool were winning the league. I just thought we were going to go on and win most of our games, but sadly it didn't. And you can't do that in this league when you have teams like Arsenal and Man City. So I think in Pep's mind he'll probably think, you know what, we were made to work for that. And the old saying goes like the best team always wins it, and it's been proven in the last 4 years.
Yep. A lot of talk about Pep Guardiola this week. You know, when we'll come on to his future, but I mean, the first manager to ever won four titles in a row. I think he's actually the first manager to ever, and Man City are the first team to ever won four English leagues, whether it was the Premier League or the First Division in a row. It's never been done before. I mean, where does he rank? I mean, is he getting very close to overtaking Ferguson in your opinion, or does he still have a bit to go?
Oh, it's them two, isn't it? It's neck and neck for me. For me, he has to. For me, he's number one. Like I know Ferguson has one more. I know Ferguson's one more, obviously, but for me, I think Pep's been up against a lot harder opposition. I know he had years where Arsenal were challenging, Chelsea were challenging, but I think the standard of the Premier League now is a lot higher than it was then. So for me, Pep is it's close, like, but for me, Pep's number one. And I think not only is he the greatest manager in the Premier League, I think he's up there, greatest managers ever. Like.
Yeah, fantastic manager. I mean, he said yesterday after his press conference and his interview, he says
They'd
he's
be like,
nearer to
"This
the
is how
end
we win."
than he's ever been at Man
Yeah.
City. He's got 1 year left on his contract. He says he's going to honour that. What happens after that is going to be interesting. But do you feel that Pep has to leave for Man City's dominance then? Do you think as long as he's here, they're going to be hard to overtake?
Aye, but I think even when he goes, I don't think they'll go and win 5, 6, 7 in a row if he leaves. But they're not going away anywhere unless the only way the Man City will go away for good is if they do get done with these charges, and I can't see that happening. So I think the main one is Pep leaving there. But
Funny enough, when you got up a wee while ago before the podcast started, there was like these knee impressions on your carpet. So is that you saying your prayers every night for them to get busted?
hey, I don't want that. I don't want any football club. But if they're fine with any football club, if they're
Wo-
fine.
Would you take? Would you enjoy if they were thrown out of the league if found guilty?
Oh, aye. If they're found guilty, if, if they're found guilty for it, then they can do one. Like, and I think every fan will say that. But if they're not found guilty, I'll come on here and say, you know what, these are proven not guilty. Fair
Mm.
play, you deserve what you
Final
did.
final thoughts. I mean, do you think next season could be his last season?
I think it will be. I think we're going into a new year now. But we were talking last
Well,
night.
there is that. I think, and I'll let you finish again. Sorry, but I think when they were chatting him yesterday, there's almost that sense in his head, and he kind of
What
hinted it
else?
without saying it that
What else can
what
he do?
more
Sort of thing.
what more can he really achieve at Man City? He's won a treble. He's got four in a row. can he go invincible? I mean, the problem you've got there is you could lose your first game of the season and that's gone right away. So it's very
Yeah.
difficult to go unbeaten, as we know. I mean, especially in this league with so many good teams on it. It's
Yeah.
not easy. Obviously, if any team can do it at the moment, it's Man City, but that isn't guaranteed. Can he win a quadruple again? Similar situation. You could get Liverpool away in a cup game, and you might rest a few, and Liverpool might go out and play their full strength team, get beaten. So you just never know. But
Yeah.
I'm starting to get the feeling that he probably believes it's probably run its course. And he'll honour his last year and probably amicably part ways. And if he was to go out with a fifth in a row, there's an argument that could never be beat.
No, it won't be. Not in our lifetime anyway. I don't think. But if he does leave, like you'll see me, you'll see me. If he does leave in the summer, I'll be saying, or next summer, sorry, I'll be giving him his praise as one of the best managers they ever do. But I think there's a difference with him and Klopp. I can see Klopp retiring, but I can't see Pep retiring. I think Pep will go to international management.
I'm surprised you didn't spot this, but that's actually a typo there. It's actually meant to be this 24,
Oh,
25.
20.
I'm getting ahead of myself. Not that far away yet.
A
So
few
24,
seasons
25.
ago.
So that'll be next season. Could very well be Pep's last season. If he doesn't sign a contract, his contract will be up. And I've got a feeling it could be his last season. And I'm sure, suppose that'll be the motivation for some of the players. If it is his last season, let's go and win another one.
Yeah.
Because at the minute, I'm not seeing where the motivation will be to go again. Obviously they only won, but when you've won it that many times, it's as Ferguson says over the years, it's difficult to keep going and going and going.
Aye, but if any if any manager can do it, it's Pep. Like he seems to have that control factor where he doesn't let his players slip. Like you seen yesterday, even when they conceded one goal to West Ham, he snapped on the touchline. Like he went
Be
absolutely
interesting to see. I
ballistic.
mean, do you think a Champions League next season will be more valuable than a Premier League? When we won the Champions League twice with Man City, plenty of teams have done it once, but did he won it twice?
Maybe because they're always going to be like when you go into a season, like if you're asking who's winning the Prem, Man City are favourites. Who's won the Champions League, Man City are favourites. So it's always a competition that he's going to be a favourite in. But I'm hoping next season for the Champions League, especially, I'm hoping there's a wee surprise in there for me at the end of the next season.
As you say, Man City could win the FA Cup next week. That'll be a double on the treble. Last season they've done a domestic treble as well in 2018-19 when they won Premier League, FA Cup, and League Cup. They've won plenty of League Cups. I mean, incredible. I think this will be his 12th trophy at Man City if they won, or something like that. It's 12, and that's not including the Community Shields, but it will be 12 trophies. Which is incredible. Owen, let's come on to talk about Arsenal because just fell short.
Your second favorite team.
Kieran says Klopp calling today will play a part. He hasn't. Klopp calling today will play a part in it. He hasn't. I'm like pushing him away. Well, that's it. I think he alluded to that actually, and he's
To be fair
interviewing
to Pep,
already before the game.
to be fair to Pep, he was very emotional yesterday talking about Klopp.
Well, he said actually this was done in the week. Obviously, it was aired on Sky Sports yesterday morning. New Sky Sports News was watching it down the caravan. But he said that Jurgen going, well, Jurgen, it wouldn't have been possible for what Man City achieved, and that he was a great manager, and he'll always remember the battles and great respect. I think there's a great mutual respect between the two of them. But we'll come on to talk about Klopp very shortly.
What I was surprised at was Richardson putting up a post last night.
Well, I think he's very much misunderstood. Anyone I've spoke to, as said, he's such a nice fella. I think he's passionate on the pitch, can get misunderstood. But I think Richardson sends so much money of his wages or something back to Brazil as well. They for charity and stuff. He's quite, from what I hear, a very, very good person. But we'll come on to talk about Liverpool and Spurs very shortly. As you said, Arsenal. They got there in the end with a win, but it was all pretty much irrelevant by that stage in terms of winning the league. But I think it was important they won and did their job. I mean, what did you make of it yesterday? Because I mean, if you're an Arsenal fan on the ground, you try and have a little bit of optimism. Maybe something can happen. It's football, and within 1 minute and 20 seconds, Man City's 1-0 up, and from that point on, you never really. You're crazy if you think anything else is going to happen by that point. And I think any Arsenal fan would have said, West Ham, they stay in it for as long as possible or go 1-0 themselves. And
You
Man City
see,
risking under that early lead was a killer. And he felt it in the stadium. The TV,
yeah,
it just completely dampened the crowd.
yeah. To be fair, I would prefer it if one of the title race and a team goes up early, because the heartbreak I had of Aston Villa going 3-0 up, it was, oh, I'll never get over that. But no, for Arsenal fans, it must have been, what's it? I
Must have
think
been.
that
I think it might have been a couple of Spurs fans getting their own back after the Arsenal fans come onto the Spurs stadium. Because why would an Arsenal fan spread a fake rumor? I don't get that. So I don't
nah,
know.
no, it always happens on final days. There's fake rumors going about, but I think for Arsenal, I seen Paul Merson on Sky Sports yesterday saying he thinks it'll be hard for Arsenal to come back from. But I don't see that with these group of players. They're young. They have a great manager. As much as I don't like him, he has a great manager, and he has a good squad there with a good group of players, and I don't think they're going away anytime soon.
Do you think Merson has a point though that and he is an Arsenal, he's a Chelsea fan, but he's an Arsenal fan as well because he played for him and stuff, and he's a big supporter of the club. But
Yeah,
he says that it could be heartbreaking that they've, obviously last season they threw it away, but this season they couldn't have done much more than what they did. Or you could look back at the odd result here and there, but they won 17 of the last 18 or whatever it was, or 16 of the last 18.
yeah,
One draw, one defeat, and the draw being at Man City. I mean, that's outstanding, and they don't want it. There's that. What more can they do? Whereas last season they had a point to prove. I don't know what point they have to prove anymore. So maybe there is some on that. That they, not that they might not recover, but I mean, I think Cal made the point the other night that Arsenal have had serious, great fortune that a lot of their main players have been fit all season. That may not be the case next season as well.
yeah. I think the only player that they've had out for a long period of time was Timber.
Yeah,
And
and he never even kicked the ball for them. So
no, yeah,
we
I
don't
think
know.
I think it came on yesterday.
Kier thinks Arsenal will go the same way as Liverpool. They'll come back for more. Um,
Mm,
I mean, where do you think Arsenal lost it? Because obviously the easy one they pointed out is the Villa game. That was the last
yeah,
game they lost at home. Do you think that was a killer for them? Obviously Villa finished fourth, they're a good team, but it was at a time when Villa were struggling a wee bit, and they'd lost 4-0 to Spurs.
yeah.
They were struggling in Europe,
They got
and they
hammered
played on the
yesterday
third.
too.
What's up?
Fuller got hammered yesterday as well.
And they played, but they played on the Thursday night before they
Yeah.
went to Arsenal on the Sunday. I mean, would you think that was a bad one? The fact they lost to Villa on that part of the season when Arsenal with a foreign team and Villa were came out of form.
It was but for me too, like the draw at Newcastle, they all were defeated Villa. Who else have they lost?
Lost to Newcastle, so it was the goal. Remember the
They
controversial goal?
they lost to Newcastle. So you could look at a many number of games where they didn't
Well, they
capitalize. But
lost three
for
games
me,
in December. They lost away to Villa, and then
Fulham.
over the Boxing Day and New Year period, they lost to West Ham at home, despite having 40 shots. They lost 2-0 at home, and they also lost away at Fulham after being 1-0, 2-1. Was that the two back-to-back? Was that the two ones that, I mean, you look at, they also drew with Fulham. They only got, if you look at the games against Fulham and Villa, they only got 1 point out of a possible 12.
It's sort of the same story as Liverpool, really, isn't it? Like if you look at our season, we lost to Palace there. We've lost to Everton. We drew with Luton. We drew with Brighton. It's like you can look
Because
at them.
you think Arsenal in the top six, they'll look at 22 points out of a possible third. I mean, it's unlikely they'll do it again next year to be unbeaten against all them teams and won what they
Yeah.
they won that many. They won. I'm guessing they won. They must have won 7 and drew. No, so they played 10 games. They must have won 6 and drew 4.
They
Aye, I'll be
drew
right. Won 6
with.
and drew 4.
Well, you include Chelsea in that now because they
They
drew with
beat
them.
they beat Chelsea home, drew away. Beat United home and away. Beat Spurs away and drew at home.
Drew with
Beat City
Liverpool
at home and drew
away.
away, and beat Villa Liverpool at home and drew away. So they get 6 wins and 4 draws, 22 points out of them 10 games. That'll be hard to do next year.
Oh, well, wait, because I think not even that next year. I think the league's going to be stronger as well. I think Newcastle are going to get better. I think Chelsea are going to get better. United, oh, God knows, you don't
Can't
know.
get
But
any worse.
no, that's true. And then obviously you have the you have the Man City and Liverpool. And as much as Liverpool are going to have a new manager, I don't think we're going to see a big drop off. I still think we're going to be up there challenging for third,
You're
second.
actually talk about Liverpool. We're not going to delay too much
But
longer. I mean, do you think, whereas Arsenal were last summer, they had to take all the flack, bottling it.
yeah,
I mean, as much as I would love to say it, being a Spurs fan,
I don't think they
but I
bottled
don't
it.
think they bottled it this year.
I think if anything, you could say Liverpool bottled it a bit, but
Yeah.
not Arsenal. No, I think for Arsenal they take the next step. As much as Havertz has been great, I do think they need that number nine, that killer number nine, and they've been linked heavily with Isak from Newcastle. So we know Newcastle have to sell to stay in line with PSR, FFP, whatever it's bloody called these days.
Yeah.
So I think he
But
could be a big
that's
target
going to
for them.
cost a lot of money. But you're chatting 100 million at least. I mean,
I
if they
mean,
were to sign Isak and finish second again next year and don't win any cups, does
yeah.
there come a point then that Arteta will come under serious fire? Because how much money do you keep throwing at it before you win it? Because
No, he will be. He
although
will
they've
be
done quite
under.
well, he spent a lot of money. You look at that team that played yesterday. The two goalkeepers he's paid 50 million for two of them, Raya and Ramsdale. I'm not convinced that Raya is any better than Ramsdale, maybe slightly, but I'm not convinced as of yet. Ben White at right back cost 50 million. Saliba, to be fair, cost him very little. Gabriel cost him 30 million. Zinchenko 25 million. Timber has to come onto the team 40 million. Rice 105 million. Party 50 million. Odegaard 30 million. I'm not
It's
going
a
to go into
very.
too many of the squad players, but you have likes of Fabio Vieira, can't get into the team, 30 million. Jesus, 45 million. Havertz, 65 million. Saka, Martinelli, we're next in off. Saka come through the academy. Martinelli was next in off him, to be fair.
Yeah.
Trossard, 27 million. I'm sure there's ones left out. That's an expensive squad they've assembled.
Yeah, it's like, but that's what you have to do to try and get to the top. But I do agree if as Darren saying there, if if we're sitting here in 12 months' time and they haven't won the league, they haven't won the Champions League or even one of the cups, then there does start to be a question asked. I was talking to you last night about that boy Lee Gunner, and he's been saying they sack Arteta since he got the job, so he'll be hoping he's sacked. But no, I do think if they don't want anything between the next 12 to 18 months, there will be questions asked. Like,
Yeah. Stefan's fave party 55 million. I mean that is I'll be shocked next season if Arteta doesn't take the cups more seriously because I think that buys him time. They finish second and won an FA Cup or a League Cup. At least it's something they fall back on, and you can at least say it's progress. I'm not sure. Arsenal fans are saying progress again because they went all the way this way.
yeah,
The only more progress they can have in the league now is winning it because they've took it to the final day. Really, they can't
yeah.
really go any further now without winning it. So I think you need some sort of the cup. Final thoughts. I mean, on next season, is it very much Man City and Arsenal for you challenging again? Do you see anybody getting involved? I know it's
As I
very
said,
early days. I know it's very early days, but are they the two you beat?
as you sit here now, you would have to say yes. Like as much as I want to say Liverpool will be up there challenging, like you don't know what sort of team we're gonna have. So at the moment, I would say they're gonna be the two. If you beat them two, I think you've won the league. That's what I'll say.
Yeah. Um, let's talk about your beloved Liverpool one for the final time this season. Suppose we
Oh,
sat here at Easter and it could be very, very different. But Klopp departs in style, and I thought it was always going to be a bit of a celebration yesterday.
yeah.
If you had turned on the TV yesterday, you'd have thought Liverpool were going for the league. That's how big Klopp has been to them. You've seen the buses coming in, and the stadium was rocking, and everybody had
It's
a
the
had a good day. And
it's
Liverpool
the
really could have.
loudest.
What's
It's
that?
it's the loudest I've heard Anfield in a
Yeah,
very long time.
and Liverpool could have won by a lot more, but they won 2-0. Klopp goes out with a bang, and they can start to look ahead now. And Slot was announced about 5 o'clock today. We knew he was coming in anyway. He couldn't hold his water. He announced it
Mhm.
himself on Friday. Don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it was obviously done at that stage. Liverpool obviously wanted to wait until the Klopp thing was done, which I think
Klopp,
Slot should have waited for. Before we
Klopp
get into,
announced it
where do
himself,
you
man.
stand on that? Do you think Slot should have kept his mouth shut for a few more days?
Nah, it doesn't. To me, it doesn't really matter. Like we knew it was happening, and I think for him, it's to be fair. If I was going from Feyenoord, no disrespect to them, the Liverpool, I wouldn't be able to hold my water either. I'd be shouting it from the rooftops. Like,
Yeah, a lot of talk about Slot now, I mean, is it an easy job he's walking on? Is it a tough job he's walking on? I'll give you the pros and cons. I mean, he's walking on a great squad of players who a lot of them are still young. I know there's a few agent players there, a few contracts they sorted. It remains to be seen on them, and we'll speak about them before we come off. But we've seen it before. People say, Ten Hag walked on the MS at United. What? That's the most difficult job. But then there's the argument when Ange come on that he was going to struggle and losing Kane. But then once they were doing well, people flipped it and said, well, he walked on the MS, so it can only get better, really. So it's a fine one, it's a fine one to balance. I mean, as Slot and walking on a team that's finished third and won a cup, can he improve on that? Expectations are quite high, as you seen last night in the group chat. You were saying maybe top 4 would be a good first season. And people going, are you serious? We need to be challenging. We've got a good squad of players. So, I mean, do you think there's going to be a lot of, not division, but a lot of Liverpool fans still expecting the same kind of success they've had under Klopp, and then maybe our ones, a bit like yourself, that'll give them a bit more time?
I think first season we have to see how he implements his style in the players, and I don't
Do you think he's walking into the toughest job in football at the moment with the expectations that are going to be on him? They challenge Man City and Arsenal.
If he wasn't replacing Klopp, I would say no, but replacing Klopp is the unenviable task, isn't it? Like he's the best in my lifetime supporting Liverpool. He's the best manager I've ever seen. So I had Liverpool, but you know what? Fair play to him for stepping up and won the ticket. He probably couldn't believe his luck. Like I'm not saying this to wind you up, but he could have been in the Spurs dugout last summer, and he's walking into one of the biggest jobs in the country now. So I'm quietly confident that we'll see success. I don't know if we'll see success to the point of where we have been under Klopp, but I'm happy with the appointment.
What's minimum next year that you would accept as a Liverpool fan under his first season?
Top 4 and a trophy.
Anything less is failure.
Top 4 and a trophy and a good run in the Champions League. That's
anything else is failure, in your opinion.
Aye, but I wouldn't sack him after 1 year. I would give him a second. But he's only getting a 3-year contract anyway. So
I think that's a big ask. Top 4 and trophy. I think top 4's got to be the minimum on its own. Stay in the Champions League at least. Be competitive in the big games. See the patterns because people are saying he's like Klopp, but no two managers are the exact same. There's going to be differences.
He plays slightly different to Klopp.
Of course, he's not going to be a copycat.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how some of the players feel, because I was watching some of their interviews yesterday, and Allison said we know nothing about him, so it'll be a culture shock for them as well.
Do you think it's quite important that he's an unknown manager, relatively speaking? Not many people know about him. Do you think it's important that he has a similar start to Ange that at Spurs? Because, I mean, if Ange had started the way he finished, there would have been a lot of Spurs fans that he'd already lost. If he had lost 5 of his first 7 games, and the only 2 teams he beat was Burnley and Sheffield United, and lost to all the big teams, there'd be question marks there. The fact that Ange won 8 and drew 2 of his first 10, then he had a few injuries and he was given a bye ball. But do you think it's important Slot comes on and hits the ground running? Because if Liverpool were to lose the first couple of games, or they lose 3 of their first 5 or 6, is that the fans already on his back, do you think?
It could be, but I'm a good believer in giving him time. But if we're sitting here in like September, October time, and Liverpool have won 8 out of their first 10 games or so, I'll be happy with it.
Yeah. I suppose one of the biggest challenges he'll have to overcome is you've seen the way Trent spoke about him on Sky yesterday. You've seen the way our players have spoke about him. He's even players like Adam Lallana, who left the club, speaking about him. Is that the biggest challenge he's got? That a lot of these players have a lot of loyalty to Klopp, and that he has to be very careful how he manages them?
It does, but I think Liverpool do a lot of background checks as well. It's not just about how you are as a coach; it's about how you are as a person. So I think Liverpool would have done their due diligence on that. And I think going by, I listened to a few Feyenoord players talking about him yesterday, and they were just as emotional about him leaving as we were about Klopp. So it's a good sign, and I think he will have his challenges, because a lot of these players are Klopp's the only manager they've known at Liverpool. So it'll be a big change. But as Darren says there, I'm excited about the future now, and as much as I love Klopp, like you have to move on now, and you have to back the new man, and hopefully he can bring success.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big thing. Everyone's asking, what will Slot do differently? What will he change? I mean, what do you think he'll change? I mean, we'll speak about the players before we know he's going to have a slightly different style of play, but play on the front foot attacking. But obviously, there's a lot of talk about Van Dijk and Salah, especially about their contract situations. Only a year left, both in their 30s, possibly as well. Maybe they've given Liverpool their best days already. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
sure if Salah can hit the heights that he's hit previously. He
No,
might score goals, but will he be able to hit
their
the 30 goals that he was hitting two,
their
three
best
years
days
ago?
are their best days are behind them. Like definitely.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you think Slot will make changes there, or do you think he'll stick with that? I mean, where do you see him changing the squad around?
We defense. We need. I think he'll keep Van Dijk because I was reading too from Paul Joyce. He said Liverpool want to focus on youth, but they also want to keep experience. And there's no one better experience to lead the back line than Van Dijk. But I do think that's our biggest thing next next season because as much as we've missed chances this season where you think we should have scored, but we are a team who scores a lot of goals, but we've kept two clean sheets now in our last 17 games or something like that. So that's and you're not going to win league titles with that. So that's
Well,
about
that's nearly half a season.
yeah.
17
That's
games, only two clean sheets is pretty desperate. I mean, it piles on the question marks that you know if a good offer comes on for Van Dijk, if a good offer comes on for Salah, do you use that? They rebuild the squad because I think if they don't go this summer, they're going to let them stay there and they're going to end up going for free, and then they're going to have to replace. All right, you mightn't be replacing them when they're at their best, but you still have to find ways to get that quality back in. And if you're doing it, we know Liverpool are very much by the book, and they're going to, it's very much sell they buy. Yes, there'll be a bit of a transfer influx, but maybe not to the level of a Man City, a Man United, an Arsenal, a Chelsea. Very similar to kind of maybe where Spurs are going, that they may have to reinvest, and it's difficult because you don't only sell your best players, but we've seen what Spurs did last year. We came in at 1 year left. 100 million was too good to turn down. And they bought on the likes of Madison, Van de Ven, Udogie, and Vicario for 100 million. And I maybe in a roundabout way made the starting 11 stronger, but lost their best player.
I don't think it'll get that. I think all three of them will sign contracts.
Well,
Obviously,
I think Trent's definitely going to sign. I mean, he's their main man now. He's the Liverpool boy, the Steven Gerrard of his generation, isn't he? He's the Liverpool fist.
He's the next captain, and also it'll be interesting to see what Slot does with him. Does he play him in midfield or does he keep him in that hybrid role? So there is a lot of questions to be answered. But I think in the summer, you're saying we might need to replace Van Dijk and Salah next summer, but I think we are looking at a centre back and the right wing for this summer. So maybe we're getting them in. They bed them in for next season when we don't have them players. I don't know because we still have Kanate there. We have Kwanzaa there, but Van Dijk, as you say, is getting older. Gomez is there. Matip's away, so there is a lot of
I have to say
questions.
as well, there's argument that Van Dijk's been the glue holding the defence together, but since Kanate's come out of the team, Van Dijk hasn't been the same player. So you almost feel maybe has the roles reversed. Has Kanate been the one that's maybe, as Van Dijk's getting older, is he the one that's holding it together? Because we've seen at times Van Dijk was helping Matip out. I think Matip got better playing beside him over the years for definite. When Lovren was there, Van Dijk was helping him out. And you always felt Liverpool's left side was stronger with Robertson and Van Dijk, and you always felt that whoever was playing on the right side and Trent was their most vulnerable side.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure that's the case anymore because we've seen Calvert-Lewin bully Van Dijk recently. Watkins had a field day there last Monday night. I'm just wondering, is he losing? I mean, it's difficult because he was brilliant against Haaland only a few months ago. But maybe as the season went on, he's older, and you think about the Champions League next year as well, more competitive games. I think they need to protect Van Dijk a wee bit more.
Yeah. He's played a lot of football as well. He's not got a lot of rest this season either, so he has been playing the majority of games. But I do agree. I think in the next, same with Arsenal, in the next 12, 18 months, we need to reshape the squad. But again, as Klopp said yesterday, I don't think it's a massive dramatic overhaul. I think it's just 2, 3, 4 signings.
We'll come on to it when we come back in the summer. Obviously, there'll be a lot happening between now and when we come back on again.
Well, you'll see me in June, July going FSG out. They don't spend.
What's your dream summer window? Realistically, we're not going. I don't be saying Mbappe and Haaland. What's your dream realistic for Liverpool players you'd like to see come on?
realistic, right? We
Feel free, Darren, Kieran, any Liverpool
um.
fans watching,
Well,
put
I'm
them
gonna
on
go.
train. Ideal players they sign in the summer.
I'm gonna go three positions or four positions. Sorry, left back. I want that boy from Wolves, Alden Nurian, because I think he would be very good for us.
So what are we
Centre back,
chatting there? Maybe 25 million for him,
probably, yeah.
right?
Because Wolves need to sell, and then centre back is a hard. I can't really tell. We've been linked with a boy from Frankfurt called Pacho. Don't know nothing about him. He's Colombian. That's all I know. But he's the one that's strongly linked. And then right wing, I don't know. I don't think it will happen. But I would love to see Kudos on. But I don't think it will happen. And then CDM, God knows where. There's not. The only one I can think of. I know he's a bit older. Is Paulinho, but you're chatting 60, 70 million there, like, aren't you?
Mm. I think a lot of them ones are. I think Al Nuri's pretty a lot of talk about that realistic.
He was
Problem with
taking.
Kudos is
He
he's on a
was.
big contract at
Like
West Ham and
Murray,
he could
he
sign
was
that
taking
summer.
photos with Liberal fans outside the ground yesterday.
Well, as I said, I can see that one happening. I think, and the
Yeah,
fact he's versatile, he can play left back, left wing back. He's also played as I don't see him playing as a striker for Liverpool, but he did play up there one time when they were struggling. Wolves, they played
I
against
honestly,
Coventry in the cup,
yeah,
scored, I think, set up one. But anyway, I think the Kudos one is the obvious one that you really want. But I think the problem is West Ham paid 45 million last summer for him. They'll want a profit on it because he's done so well, and I think he's
yeah.
got 4 or 5 years left in his contract. And we're
He
then
hasn't
selling
released
Rice. They
was,
sold
but
Rice last year for big money, so they
yeah.
don't really need the money.
Although, could you go on and get a Jared Bowen? Like, I don't know.
Well, that's it. But I think again, you're chatting 60, 70, maybe 80 million. In fact,
But
you're probably
no,
chatting because I mean, I don't think West Ham's going to sell Kudos for 15 million more than they bought for him
yeah,
last year when he said such a. You're probably chatting 80 million. The even
yeah.
West Ham at the
But
table.
then no one Liverpool. It'll be some randomer from the Dutch league that's 20, that's 21, 22. He never kicked a ball in his life.
I suppose we'll come back to that in the summer when the Euros is finished and we're chatting about all the big transfer stories. Let's look at the European places. We know Villa secured fourth before the final day. What wasn't decided was fifth, sixth, and seventh. Now, it was pretty unlikely Spurs was going to surrender fifth, but you just never know with Spurs. But pretty early on, it was comfortable. They won 3-0.
Yeah,
Chelsea also won 2-1. So they secured sixth, and Newcastle and United were battling for seven. Newcastle won, even though United won. Newcastle were in pole position and got that, and now you will have to wait on next week's FA Cup final to see what it will get them. But we'll start in
I think they're grand. I think they're grand.
we'll start in the order there. So fifth for Spurs. I mean, I think disappointing probably because of where they were, but in
Yeah.
hindsight, if you had offered Spurs fans fifth at the start of the season to finish above Chelsea, Man United, and Newcastle after losing Harry Kane 24 hours before the season kicked off, they'd have bet your hand off for it.
I know I was bantering you yesterday saying a good season, ha ha ha. But it has been a good season because in my predictions at the start, I think I had them sixth. I had them like seventh or eighth or something. So I think for Spurs to get Europe, and it'll be as much as they don't want to be in the Europa League, it will be a good chance for them to get a trophy because I couldn't see them winning the Champions League. So I
Yeah,
think for
of course, as well, Owen, that the new format, there's no dropouts in the Champions League. Once you're out
yeah,
of these competitions now. So
I prefer that.
what's the 36 teams in there at the start of the Europa League will be the winner will come from one of them 36, and that gives Spurs half decent chance if they take it seriously, which I think they will because we've seen Ange already takes every game serious now.
If he won the Europa League, do you still get into the Champions League? Is that still a thing?
Still get into the Champions League, yeah.
Yeah, that's still a thing. I think the two favourites for the Europa League next season. Obviously, I don't know what the positions are like in the R leagues, but for me, it'd be Spurs and Chelsea off the bat. Like.
Well, some of the teams at the minute, Spurs, provisionally Chelsea, assuming Man City won on Saturday, that'll be confirmed. Chelsea will be one of the favourites, you'd think, as well. Frankfurt, Nice, Roma, who've done quite well, Roma. But you're looking at them teams and you don't automatically scream that big hitter. No, you'd imagine Spurs, Chelsea are the two teams that most teams will want to avoid.
But then we said that this season. I was saying Liverpool were going to walk it. So,
Of course. And that is the
and
thing, the Europa League, you just never
and
know.
it
And
didn't
the
happen.
favourites rarely ever won it.
But
I mean,
for Chelsea, it's a great season because there was looking it was looking ropey at a point there that they were going to finish bottom half, and because of United's poor form, because of Newcastle's poor form, they snuck in the sixth and fair play to them.
Yeah, only lost one of their last 15 games, Chelsea. Brilliant 2024. I think they were third or fourth in the table for 2024 since January the 1st. I mean, a lot of talk about Pochettino. Very similar to his first season at Spurs. Had a very poor first half of the season,
Yeah.
finished strong, and I ended up pipping Liverpool for fifth actually on the last day. Remember the Rodgers 7-6, 7-1 they stuck, was it? Jared's last game. Anyway, very
6-1.
similar season where they sort of came from the eighth, ninth, and finished fifth with a strong finish to the season. So, and very similar to what was Spurs, a lot of young players, obviously not to the same extent of money, but improved all them young players. I mean, is he the best man? I mean, why would they want to replace him? Who's out there that could possibly do better?
I think they should stick with him, but it's whether he wants to stay there because I
Well,
still
he's made a few remarks, hasn't he, about he might
I
want to stay.
he's made a few, like there was one last week where he was saying it doesn't really matter to me if I'm not here next season. Like if they sack me, so be it. So I still don't think he's happy. And no matter what Chelsea have done, I just don't think the fans have taken him.
Well, that's it. The problem he has at Chelsea, he didn't have at Spurs. He didn't have a past their rival. You know,
Yeah,
he came from Southampton, Spurs and Southampton. There's no rivalry.
yeah.
The problem is, until he does something significant, Chelsea fans will always see him as a Spurs man.
I mean,
And
you
even the
seen
way
it.
he speaks about Spurs still,
I mean, you
he
seen it
has a
with
loving. He has a bit of a loving for Spurs.
aye, because he said the other day, I'll never want Spurs to lose a game or something like that. But you seen it with Chelsea with Rafa Benitez. He won them the Europa League and they still hated him. So
Yeah. If Poch does stay, you think Chelsea are the biggest threats to the teams that finished in the top four this year?
they should be, but again, Chelsea's a bit of a mad one too. They could go in next season and still have a dodgy start, but I don't think they will. I think they finally got their stuff together, and I think they'll be. I think the fight for fourth and fifth will be very interesting next season.
Well, as you say that, the English teams will have a better chance of five teams getting into the Champions League next season because of the amount of our teams. It basically works that the more teams in it, the less you accumulate per game
Yeah,
because it's divided by how many teams you have in it.
yeah,
So, and I think it's unlikely next year that the English teams are as bad. I think they just had such a poor turnout this year that they lost
yeah.
two teams in the group stage, which won't happen, I don't think, this time. So, it could be next season if fifth place gets you in the Champions League, and that will definitely help
Well,
the likes of Spurs, Chelsea, Newcastle, and Man United. Owen,
Liverpool's going to win the Champions League anyway, so it's all right.
before we get into the end of season awards, we'll touch off on Newcastle and United. I mean, Newcastle finished quite strong in 2024 as well, but
Yeah,
all comes down to Man City winning the cup next week, which you would expect them to do. But
you never
if
know
United
when
will be
they're
somehow
off game.
shock Man City, I mean, who knows? Man United on their day are capable.
Yeah,
They've seen it in the past, and they're a team that doesn't have to play well. They won games. They've proved that this
fine.
year numerous times. So, I mean, it'll be gut wrenching for Newcastle to go from Champions League to Europe.
It's well, it's the same situation for Man United, really, isn't it?
Well,
Because
the problem, well, I and no, but the problem, I think United fans aren't that bored because it's not the Champions League.
no,
Newcastle fans are just happy to be in Europe of any kind.
it will be a blow if they don't get into Europe. But I don't, as I said earlier, I don't think it'll come to that. I think Man City will win the cup quite
Do you
comfortably in
think
the
next
end.
next Saturday is all about Ten Hag? Has to win to keep his job?
I actually don't. I think he's staying because I've been reading things from like Fabrizio or is saying it's not necessarily down to the result; it's down to the performance. So even if they do lose, say they lose 2-0, but put up a good fight, I can see him staying. But if I was a United fan, I wouldn't want him there. I just don't think he's good enough.
I just don't see how United can have him in the job if he finishes eighth and doesn't win anything. I mean, that's just it's our lowest ever league
There's,
finish.
there's only
I just
room. There's only room for one ball Dutchman next season. Then is what you're saying.
Before we get in the awards, quick prediction for next Saturday's cup final.
I'm gonna go 2-0 Man City, but a very comfortable 2-0.
Right. Oh, in 5 minutes before the Derry City game kicks off down in Tala away at Shamrock Rovers last year's champions. So we will go through these as quick as we can. Me and Owen have come up with our challenges for our awards for this season. So it's going to be team of the season, player of the season, manager of the season, best best newcomer, so that can be a manager or a player, overachievers, underachievers, and one they watch for next season, which can also be a manager or a player. So
Yeah.
obviously, feel free to put yours in, and we'll put them on the screen before we finish. So Owen, we'll start with you. Talk me through your team of the season and why you selected players, as quickly as you can, but obviously explaining
Yeah.
it.
I think I'll go with the goalkeeper. I just think it's because he's kept the most clean sheets. Like, and as much as I don't see much of a difference in him and Ramsdale, I think once you win the Golden Glove, you have to be in there. That's just. And Porro was just because I couldn't really think of much right backs as much.
He's a quite a strong season, Porro. He's a
Yeah,
lot of stuff, and he started the goals this game too.
and don't get me wrong, Ben White's been excellent, but I think I like watching Porro as a player. I think he's a very good player, and the two centre backs, I don't really have to say much about them. They've been
Was
part
it
of the
hard to
best.
leave Van Dijk out?
It would have been maybe 6 months ago, but I just think the way he's ended the season has been a bit disappointing. But as I say, you can't leave them to it. Like they've been part of the best defense in the league, and Udogi as well, similar to Porro. I know he's been injured the last part of the season, but the way he started the season was just electric, wasn't it?
Yeah,
And then we Rodri and Rice again. Like what is what is there to say about them two? Like Rice has transformed Arsenal. I know they didn't win anything, but I think he's just been a brilliant signing. And Rodri's just the best in the world in his position, isn't he?
yeah,
And then for Odegaard again, he's just been excellent to watch the season. I think the way he plays, the way he can just split a defense with one pass, his vision is just unbelievable. He's a player that I would have loved to see Liverpool sign years ago. Like. And then the front three, then Palmer's just he's carried that Chelsea side really, hasn't he? He's just, when they were struggling, he was still scoring
I
hat
think
tricks.
unfortunately for Palmer, because he played in the Premier League before, we couldn't give him the best newcomer. But
Yeah,
I mean, he's probably the biggest surprise of the season.
yeah,
Obviously, we knew he was talented, but they score as many goals as he has, 22 goals. I know he scored a fair few penalties, but he still
yeah.
scored more goals from general play than he did from penalties. I mean, he's been excellent and carried Chelsea, as you say, through the tough times.
And then Haaland and Foden again. Haaland's another Golden Boot season, as you said to me before we came on.
27 goals, and he didn't even
Uh,
break sweat.
mhm. And the scary thing is he was missing for about 10 games of the season. He hasn't played the full season, and as you said to me before we went on, it was 63 goals he scored already in the Premier League, which is scary after 2 seasons. And Phil Foden's just been electric. He's a wonderful footballer. Like Paddy plays for such a horrible
Yeah,
club, but
6 Premier League titles, and he's only 23. Incredible. Owen
yeah,
Darns has team on here. He's going to be Raya, Walker, Saliba, Van Dijk, Udogi, Rodri, Rice, McAllister, Palmer, Haaland, and Foden. My team's quite similar to Owen's. Front six is the exact same. I think the front six, the front six picked himself. I couldn't really put anyone else on. I've gone for Martinez and Nets, and I know he made that mistake against Liverpool, but other than
yeah,
that, I think he's been solid. I think if you go through, you look at Raya's made a lot more mistakes than Martinez, for example.
yeah,
I think if you go through every goalkeeper this year, they've made mistakes somewhere.
yeah,
Martinez, I went with Ben White over Porro. Just think White's been so solid and nasty when he's had to be, and we've seen the
yeah.
tricks with Vicario's gloves, and I think that's just what you need in players. So difficult to leave Porro out because I think he's been excellent, but if I had to go with White, Saliba, Gabriel picked himself. Arsenal have been outstanding, and I know you picked Raya for the Golden Glove, but I think the Raya will probably say that Saliba and Gabriel have given him that Golden Glove.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's a part of it, but them two have been outstanding. Udogi, based on his first half of the season, I think Gavardiol, if he had been playing a bit more like he has at the end of the season, but I can't put him on based on the 5 or 6 games that he had.
Yep.
Rodri and Rice, as you said, outstanding. Odegaard, De Bruyne didn't play enough. Otherwise, it might have been tighter with Odegaard. And
Yeah.
the front three, as you say, Palmer was outstanding. Foden's been just he's just took his game to a new level. And Haaland, as you said, doesn't even have a great season and still won the Golden Boot quite comfortably. Owen, your player of the season.
For me, it's Declan Rice. I know Foden, and it's very close between them two. I just think because that's what Arsenal were missing, and that's what Liverpool were missing. Like a player of that ilk in that position who can just transform a team. And I just think he's been excellent this season. But it's very close between him and Foden, but I would just give it to Rice.
Yeah, Darren's going to be Foden. As you say, for me, it was down to between Foden and Rice, but I just think Foden scored so many big goals and big games
Yeah,
this season. Even yesterday, he scored that goal to get them off their flyer, scores again. He's been outstanding. I think De Bruyne even said after the game, we've won it because of Foden. And so ultimately, it sounds awful because Rice isn't the reason Arsenal didn't win it, but Foden probably is the big reason why Man City did won it. And I think the
yeah,
player of the season has to be from the champions, especially when
yeah,
it's so tight.
yeah.
So it had to be Foden, but Rice comes out with a lot of credit. Oh, and manager of the season.
Uh, well, as he likes to say, good evening. So it's it has to be Emery for me. The way like Villa finished what seventh last season, they were in the relegation zoners. I think when he came in, so from there to get in Champions League football. Now I know they've had a wobbly end of the season, but for me that's irrelevant. Like for what he's done this season, and they'll probably be disappointed that they didn't win the Conference League, but I think just based on getting Villa in the Champions League, I think that's a lot. I think that tips it for me. The Bournemouth manager has been great, but I think you can't look past them really.
Yeah, of course, and I agree with you in this one. Emery, I think for Villa, he finished fourth. Has been an incredible season, and he did have a good go in Europe too. They got the
Yeah,
semi-finals. They've played in Europe all season too, really. So they've had to combine that. He's had injuries towards the end of the season. I think the difficult thing now is you see with Newcastle's how do you sustain it because they've got the Champions League next year. It's going to be difficult. But tremendous achievement. They shake off what he did at Arsenal. They go to Villarreal and do what he did at Villarreal. Come to Villa, pick them up. He's proven himself as a great manager.
Smith won't be happy with that one.
No, but you can't argue with the facts at the moment, and the facts tell you that Emery's done really well. Whether it's sustainable or not is going to be
Yeah,
the difficult one because Newcastle have really struggled this season. For Villa, they finished above Spurs, United, Chelsea, and Newcastle. As you know, for me, a fantastic achievement. Oh, and best newcomer. So this had to be a manager or a player that hadn't played in the Premier League before this season, and you went for.
Van de Ven. I just think the way he plays, he's just so quick, and I do think if it wasn't for his injury, I think he would have been in the team of the season too. The way he started the season was just electric, and I think he'll only get better with experience and age. And I think Spurs have got themselves a real find there.
Liverpool must out one there, big time.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree with you on this one. Van de Ven, think his first season's been it's as if he's played in that Spurs team for years.
Yeah,
He hasn't need any. We talk about sometimes players needing to adjust when they come to this. He's just he looks like he's been here and he's been excellent. Obviously, a lot of he gets accredited with a lot of the piss and stuff, but his overall general play, he's actually scored 3 goals with his feet, and they've all been good goals. One was like he had
yeah.
two of them
The one,
were like he had a wriggle in and out, and the
the
other
one
one was a
against
thumper against
Forest.
Forest.
That was my. I like that one.
And he's had to play at left back too recently. Darren's going for Kwanzaa.
I did say that before we came on air.
You says Kwanzaa too, possibly. Overachievers, you went for Villa. I went for
Well,
Villa. We've kind of explained
it's
that. Underachievers, Man United, and I don't really think that one needs explaining. So we'll finish off by our ones they watch, and no surprise for what Owen selected here.
Nah, I just think because of the new it's going to be. I think a lot of eyes will be on Liverpool to see how Slot gets on and how he builds on what Klopp's done. So it'll be a very interesting and nervous watch next season for a lot of Liverpool fans, I would say.
100%. Maybe we got a wee bit carried away with our selections for this one. I suppose maybe I'll be accused of biased as well. But I've gone for Brennan Johnson. I think he's had a decent first season. I think could have done better. But
Yeah,
they come in with nearly a 50 million price tag on your back on deadline day. We know pre-season. He's had a few injuries. They get 10 assists. Has been a pretty good return. 5 goals as well. I think he's had a decent first season. He's only 22. I think
yeah.
he'll get better. Just need to develop that confidence. But again, it could have been Darren saying Chelsea once they watch, possibly as well.
Also,
I think there's a good chance Chelsea could be pushing for that top 4 next year. So, Owen, I want to thank you for your tremendous content you provided on the podcast this season.
no
I
bother.
think you've by far done the most shows. So, thanks for that. And I know a lot of the viewers enjoy you.
No
I
problem.
want to thank everyone in the comments for their support this season. And I'm really looking forward to next season already. But we are going to be taking a short break. But before we go, Owen, you're going to be starting a Euros channel.
Yep.
And football transfer, everything going through the summer, because I will not be doing much until kind of the Euro finishes. So, I mean, is your chance? Speak away.
My channel, obviously, you know, I had the Anfield Road, but I decided to move away from that. So my new channel is called Owen Talks Football, whereas Gareth said I'll be doing pretty much everything around football. I'll still be doing my Liverpool stuff, but I'll be doing a lot more alongside that. So subscribe to my channel because I'll be starting during the Euros. So I hope you enjoy that.
Yeah, you'll catch me on with Owen and some of the other channel regulars on during the summer as well, talking about the Euros and possibly transfer news if it's happening. I know usually a lot of transfer news doesn't happen the after Euros, but with the new PSR rule, a lot of clubs are under pressure to do business for the June the 30th for the financial record of the year. So that'll be interesting to see how much movement there is now in the next few weeks, particularly like Chelsea, Villa, Wolves, Newcastle, to name a few teams. Yeah, all on the breadline. So that Forest and our team all struggling and have to try and get players off the books before June the 30th. So quite interesting. So me and Owen will be back on June the 18th at around 8:45 on Tuesday, the 18th of June. 15 minutes or so before the fixtures come out. We're going to do a couple of quick predictions of who we want and stuff, and then we'll give you the fixtures as they come out and look ahead to the big dates in the season. So lastly, I just want to thank everyone for their support this season. Honestly, it's been a really, really enjoyable for all of us. We've really loved it. Darren also has been on, and he's been excellent as well. So you'll see him back next season. And you'll see Owen, obviously, and me as well during the summer throughout on his channel. So give him a follow. If you're new around here, make sure to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel for more content ahead of the 2024 season. So me and Owen's out of here. We'll see you on June the 18th. Thanks very much for your support.
Cheers, everyone.